Hello, my peeps, and welcome to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I sing too many more words, I'd like to take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all these vibratos, you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd mean a lot. And if you want to tell me the parts of the show that you were passionate about, peeved you off, or just say hi, you can always reach me on Twitter at LikeIkes and via email passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. So I'm recording this intro on April 14th. Been testing for magic very heartily last week or so, and gonna increase even more so as I drive down to Long Beach today to play magic for 8 hours. And speaking of heading places, I'm heading to the tournament that I'm gonna play, or I'm heading to the tournament city in less than a week. I will be flying up to Seattle on Sunday morning, the 21st. See my brother and record an episode of our other podcast, Super Pros Bros, live and probably inebriated. So that's going to be awesome. Get to see my bro in person. And then play lots of magic. So very exciting, very scary, but very awesome. In less awesome news, I found out today from my hopefully trustworthy accountant that I owe $5,000 in taxes this year. This is like the first time I've ever had to pay in taxes, and this is definitely the first time I've had to pay even close to this much. So I'm shitting my pants right now. I tell you, folks, this is even more proof that you have to play magic because you love it, not because you want the money. Because gosh darn, the the money you have to pay beforehand is a lot, and now I have to pay $5,000. Anyway. So this week you get to listen to a long-awaited guest, somebody that I have known since my days at Cal State Monterey Bay. Is a awesome individual, very fun, and very much one of the people I kind of thought of when initially making this list, and it's taken this long to get him on the mic. It's a good friend, a great colleague, and just an amazing guy. My first introduction to him was, I think, first day of it wasn't an intro to film class, but it was one of my first classes where I actually met my editor. But we were going around introing, and he introed and then proceeded either in that class or another one to talk about bionicles for like 10 minutes, and it was spellbinding. Sadly, he's not talking about bionicles today, although I know he still loves them. But he is talking about something that really makes him happy, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Take it away, past me.
All right, folks, today has been long waited. We have a man who once drank 2 gallons of apple juice in a day, started an internet meme about bionicles, and dressed his eyes with salt to convincingly cry for the craft. It's the one, the only, RORY WEBER!
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, my man. And what are we talking about? What's the passion you've brought with you today?
Well, I mean, harkening back to what we talked over before the show, I actually brought 3 things to the table.
3 things?
All interlinked in roughly an equal measure, but they're kind of a package deal.
All right, what's the package? Don't sell it to me one at a time. Give it to me all at once. What you got?
I have a passion about editing. I love music, and I'm very keen on sound design, but not any one to the exclusion of the others.
You're an everything everywhere all at once with the passions kind of guy.
quality reference.
Ba-da-cha.
Yeah, it does in terms of just structuring like projects rather than kind of as opposed to just kind of feeling everything out as I tend to. That yes, everything everywhere all at once is apt. But
So when
yeah,
did you get into this? When did you first start falling in love with doing these all at the same time? Did these come separately? Did they come together? Did one follow the other? How did these all come about for you?
I think that the medium of like film and video and uh kind of tying sound and music and all of this together really didn't coalesce for me until about junior year of high school, if I'm remembering correctly.
All right. So which
Um,
one came first? Which one do you remember like really falling in love with doing and working with and kind of playing around in the sandbox?
well, it really all three of them at once. Kind of the catalyst for all this was I had to shoot a video with two other people for Spanish class. Um, just kind of to give some additional context, I really have an unabashed love for like shit posting, memery, uh, absurdism, just kind of
Just mucking about, having fun.
yeah. But at the same time, like it's always kind of been like its own very insular thing. Like I haven't been uh, super up for most of my life on like posting memes on the internet, except the one you mentioned in the drum roll, which I guess we could talk about as well at some point. Um, that like it's always just kind of been its own thing and existed within its own mythos with regards to like my family and like the friends in my orbit and whatnot, and like it'll just be like Rory's thing,
Mm-hmm.
such as it were. But we had to shoot a video and we decided to make it kind of a comedy. It's about two talking pinatas. This video was called Romeo and Julieta. And it was I wasn't the one who shot it. I was working with two other folks. I haven't kept in correspondence with either of them, but it was the kid who was kind of the director per se was named Luke. So he made it this like cute little love story, and then at the kind of in the vein of Toy Story, like they're animate, but they just appear like inanimate objects to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this beautiful like romantic montage of them like hanging out together, uh, being conversant in Spanish to the degree that we would pass the assignment, being wed, and then being abducted and murdered for their innards.
As you do.
Yeah. But I essentially got access to the footage for this project after the fact, although I didn't edit the initial result. And so I like experimented with making a really solemn kind of like cut where there's like this like kind of dramatic Elizabeth Scott music. I think it actually came from Transformers. They called it Romeo and Julieta, a silent tragedy. um, but it's just like this footage we shot in Luke's front yard of us like swinging on pinatas and whatnot. But that kind of getting a chance to do all three of those and like kind of figure out the way everything was paced relative to the music and like where it could hide edits around like louder and quieter passages of the music, and just kind of getting a chance to like mold each little thing about it really kind of enabled me to do like all three at once.
Had you ever edited before this project?
This I think was the first one I had ever edited, at least in terms of gosh, did I do anything with music before then? I've honestly, like 90% of the audio work in which I've done throughout my life has not been stuff that I have composed directly, as
Sure.
much as it has been sound design with like library audio or um, stuff we're recording, or like existing film scores in particular.
Sure.
Um,
So in this interaction, you do this with two cohorts, potentially friends from high school. You're trying this out for the first time. It doesn't sound like you wrote the script, but it sounds like it was a banger. And then,
it was fun.
yeah, they give you this project, and you not only did the editing, you kind of mucked about with the visuals, kind of added some flares. You did sound design, and you went, found, and kind of messed with the musical score.
Yeah, but this was all like this wasn't the cut that we showed to the class necessarily. This was something that I did after the fact.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Did
yeah,
you
so
were
I was
these your
just
roles before for what you guys did show to the class though, or did you take it upon yourself to try out what somebody else had done afterwards?
um
Like
essentially
what was your
like
role on the crew for the project for school?
um I think that there were just three of us, so I remember the other fellow's name now, but it was myself, Luke, and Patrick. Luke was kind of the director of the piece. But we, because there were only human characters in the form of the party goers, I think I acted as the male pinata Romeo, and I am also the presumable birthday boy who kills Romeo. So I get the chance of playing two characters and then
Suicide and
killing.
murder all at the same time.
Yes. And my favorite shot in all of the film is this still of the female pinata Julieta standing there solemnly as we just throw candy that's meant to represent Romeo's innards at her from off screen.
That's awesome.
So we cut from me swinging the bat at myself, so to speak, to
Yeah.
our newly bereaved pinata just being showered with her lover's gore.
So you're acting in this piece. What other, like, were you doing any amount of the editing on its initial release, or?
No, I just made all the stuff that like the stuff with the Transformers score like came after the fact, and I just did that for fun.
Okay.
So
and
like put that on YouTube.
There was no necessity. You just wanted to like, did you feel like it needed to be improved, or were you just like, you know what, this would be kind of fun if, and just went in there and just like kind of played around?
More the latter. Like the original film really is not like taking itself too seriously, and because I used the exact same footage.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a ton that I could do to change narrative, but I didn't really want to. I just wanted like to make it solemn in the sense of like that's going to be funny in its own way, to like have this really like wordless, like emotional Hans Zimmer type like string and piano piece just crescendoing to this like
yeah
tragic event, but it's just footage some high school kids shot in their backyard.
So after this one is done, you show it to the class, laughs, applause, an Oscar, and then you go and you muck about by yourself on your computer. Did you show it to anybody?
I think that one I just showed to my family. I had it up on my YouTube as one of my earliest videos. And what's weird is that I think somebody who was in that class actually left a comment looking for the original video.
Like, yeah, this is nice, cool music, but where was the first?
I know. So I'm smarting a little bit, but like I did kind of wish that I could help them because I had access to Luke's YouTube channel still, but I haven't necessarily kept in correspondence with either of them. It was just kind of we didn't really hang out outside of that. It was just something that we came together and did, and it was a lot of fun.
So after you do this, you show it to your family. When was the next time that you tried doing this with either this piece or another one? Like, when did you first get like kind of go back to the, go back to the well?
It I'm not exactly sure on the time of this next bit, but pretty rapidly after doing that, it kind of like condensed into the sense of like I would kind of be interested in like cinematic arts. Um, I wish maybe I'd been a little bit more forward about like, yes, I would be interested in doing that, but like, uh, I really like editing. I really like music. I don't know how to, like really read music. I still have trouble kind of deciphering like traditional notation and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But like uh I actually signed up for classes at a local community college, and that was what I've majored in from undergrad, like all the way through upper division. But I got a chance to work with a director there by the stellar name of Alyssa Toledo. Um,
Great name.
and I got a chance to like act and then edit myself in that.
So a lot of people, myself included, really find dealing with the editing process with their own voice or their own visage to be problematic. You've now done this, your first two attempts and forays into this field, you were editing yourself. Was that at all a
Yes.
problem for you, or were you just like, whatever, this, this guy's on screen, and were you like, did you like make him almost another person? Were you kind of like, oh cool, that's me? Or was this like kind of like, oh god, that guy again?
A little bit of both, in the sense of I don't particularly like care for the timbre of my voice and the way it comes across when I talk. I'm not super like I'm not a trained actor or
Mm-hmm.
anything. I've been in like talent shows and the occasional school play and whatnot, but it's um there is, I think, a little bit of like I'm gonna know how to like edit myself best because I know what embarrasses me, and at least I feel like I have an idea of what comes across as tacky uh, when I'm on screen. So I'm gonna try and minimize that to the best of my ability. Um, and I think, to their credit, the professors at the college like kind of impressed upon us early and often that like as little dialogue as you can possibly record for your movie is the best.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be like one day where your mic's really hot, or like you just don't have the proper equipment to compensate for the weather you've got. So there are, I think we did 3 or 4 films together through lower division. And then I transferred up to CSUMB, but like a lot of them don't have a ton of dialogue through.
Is this so? You went to the junior college, then you transferred to CSUMB. Guess what, listeners? That's where we met.
Yes.
Before that, did you voice what you wanted to do to your parents, or were they thinking that you were trying to go towards something else? Like, what, if any, communication was there about this newfound passion so late in your high school experience?
I think that they were probably pleased and to some degree relieved that like I'd found something that I was kind of locking into. I'm not sure that I came off as like I've always liked going to school and I've liked learning, but as far as like pursuing a career beyond primary education, I don't know how many indicators I gave to them
Okay.
of pursuing anything. Like I've certainly got interests. I love kind of have a late burgeoning love of cinema. I really like chemistry, what have you, but haven't like there's not necessarily there's a difference between liking something and really being interested and fascinated with it and reading everything about it, and then like actionably carrying that over into pursuing a career,
True.
which is not my strong suit.
So how many, going into, you went into university, when you finally arrived at CSUMB, how many projects, either personal or for someone else, had you been involved in the, editing, scoring, sound design aspect?
I don't know that I've kept count. Over a dozen, I think, because there's stuff that I was doing. I like that would essentially was where we got the keys to the kingdom in lower division was in this because we could take home laptops over the weekend and over break to work on our projects
Mhm.
on, and so I that's really where I got
Oh, did you not have like any technology at home to work on this prior?
not only did I had GarageBand, um and I oh my goodness,
For those of you that are
I
confused
would
why I'm laughing, GarageBand is a free program that is how would you typify it, Roy?
a little jank.
That's a good
I
one.
it's not a bad it's not a bad way to start out,
Yeah.
but I was editing my I was editing my project in that, and not only was that from like a video aspect, just
Oh,
like
wow.
random things that I would shoot with my family, but I would also edit audio in GarageBand. Or
Yeah.
yeah. And so I would or oh my goodness, excuse me. I not GarageBand. GarageBand's the DAW. What is the freebie video maker that you get with Macintosh? Which I clearly am not
Oh, hold on.
have not had to use for many years now because I'm
iMovie.
iMovie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was editing audio in iMovie because I had Audacity. I've installed that, but it was as a destructive editor, I could not undo changes if I did something I didn't want.
Hmm.
So I figured out like audio curves and editing and the finer bits of that in GarageBand to the point where I could kind of start doing that uh, in Audacity or in iMovie. I mean, until Audacity. Ugh.
That's wild. So you get to CSUMB, you're getting to work on projects, you're getting to explore more. How did you like that kind of level up of going from figuring this out, taking courses at a community college, to getting to go to school, have access to all these opportunities and equipment that they had available for us?
I think my batting average in some ways was better with my community college work. Um,
Why do you think
I
that
got
is?
to, I think, just rapport with a director. I would say, arguably, what I was working on inarguably, what I was working on at CSUMB was more outside my comfort zone and like kind of pushed me more. Like that was I'd done like kind of audio collages for uh videos before, like tracked in and edited like existing music for stuff I was working on with Alyssa uh, at uh, at Allen Hancock, which was the community college where I was going for the 3 years before CUCMB. But um, when I moved over to CSUMB, that was where I really started working with MIDI, and like actually like trying to compose rather than like using existing music and
Mm,
editing and
okay.
whatnot. Um,
So now that you've, spoiler alert, graduated, what have you kind of followed up graduating doing in this field? Have you moved somewhere where this is more of an opportunity for you? Is this something that you can do kind of, uh, you know, remotely? And so you're, just staying someplace that perhaps doesn't have the same kind of rent hike that Los Angeles has. What has your process been since you graduated?
so obviously we graduated in uh, the the height of the pandemic.
Woohoo!
So I pretty much just moved right back in with my parents at that point, and got a job at a kitchen, completely outside of like anything that I've been doing at school. Um, I am no longer living with my parents. I'm actually in San Luis right now. I am renting with an apartment with a former coworker. Um, and I actually am working at a farm stand currently. I've done some. Really, the extent of what I've done since then has been working on scores for alums or people that I had worked on with at CSUMB. So I think I've done 4.
Wow.
But like not for money or anything, just for
Yeah, no, but still, it's a lot.
yeah.
So, what is your moving forward? What would you say is your dream involvement with the passion, and
Um,
what kind of steps do you see as kind of helping you head in that direction?
I am not 100% sure what my dream involvement is with it, other than like getting a chance to kind of have some input in all 3. I think,
Like, is this something
uh,
that you'd like to have be a job someday?
I mean, if I could, it wouldn't be at the level of like, say, I'm just going to throw him out because he's like a prominent actor or prominent editor composer. Sorry, like it would not probably not at the stature of somebody like John Ottman or what have you. But it is something that I would have interest in getting back into again. I really do need to kind of work on putting my life and managing my mental health a lot better and just having a bit of a framework. I am currently looking at returning to community college in my area postgraduate.
Sweet. Is this something that you would be fine doing as just passion projects, time allowing? Work. I don't want to say a humdrum 9 to 5, but work a not film industry 9 to 5, and then do this on the weekends. Do this when you get home from work, kind of thing. Or do you
That
or
is
do you
a
want it to be a job?
that is a really good question. I am kind of at the point where I'm feeling like it might be something where it's going to be a matter of passion projects. I've never been paid for anything that I've worked on,
Sure.
um, which is like fine to some degree. But I have kind of difficulties in setting boundaries and saying no to people,
Feel that.
which is not necessarily the fault of like people, but like it distorts how much work you're saying that you're willing and able to take on versus your actual like
Yeah.
acumen of doing stuff. And to some degree it is good to have my back up against the wall because it forces me to figure out things.
Sure.
But like a lot of times you will like figure things out in a very insular way. Like I've been, working in Pro Tools um since like the very end of lower division, and like I still wouldn't probably be at the aptitude to be able to like teach anybody else how to use it beyond a very basic level. I've just figured out the workflow that works for me.
Yeah.
um
I mean that's so much of life though. Now,
yeah.
like, why do you feel like you would enjoy this better as a hobby and a passion project than a job? Or do you think this is a job that you would like to pursue? 'Cause you're saying that, like, I see it as likely a passion project, but
Hmm.
is this something that, like, acting is so hard to pursue that it would take too much of your life that you're uninterested in devoting that? Or is it that it's something that you're trepidatious on working on because then you're putting all the eggs in one basket, and if the basket falls down, then you're kind of left with nothing?
I think that I need to be at a better place in terms of like self-actualizing and setting boundaries and looking after my own mental health before it's something that I can um like almost before it's something that I can like give 100% of
Yeah.
myself over to pursuing as a job. I need to be able to say like pay me, or
Yeah.
like I will and have like worried myself sick before, like to the point that my body is just like not working uh if I'm not really careful. And I think that there is the fear that that's like what I might be opening myself up to if I do branch out a little bit more adventurously.
Sure.
I'm very I'm perfectionistic. I'm also an inveterate procrastinator. If you ask anybody who I've worked with, like post grad, they will definitely tell you that I come down to the wire on like trying to like fiddle with things and burn the midnight oil and like to get stuff to a point that I'm happy with it. But yeah, it's been like I feel like that it needs to be coming from something where I have a better base and I'm better regulated when I am like conducting myself.
Hell yeah. Mad props. That putting yourself before your work is something that takes a lot of people a lifetime to do. So congratulations for taking that step.
Thank you.
Now, if in a futuristic world, mental health somehow, solidified as being perfection. I don't think that's a thing, but let's pretend it is. You got that all under wraps. We both do. Let's pretend we're both in that perfect situation in the future. It's perfect. We got it locked down.
Yeah.
Ready, steady, tripod style. You're working in the industry, actualizing this dream. Who would you want to work with or collaborate with, given your druthers?
This is a really good question that I don't know that I have ever really thought about. Are we talking in terms of people who I personally know or people who like famous, like celebrated figures in the industry?
Whichever one you would like to either work with, work under, or collaborate with. Whichever one's, kind of, and it doesn't have to just be just one. If there is just one, that's awesome. But if there's a smattering that, I could never choose if they asked me, like, list them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested in reconnecting with some of the folks who I worked on projects for at my very first semester at CSUMB. I think, namely, Joanna Gonzalez, Liberty Ingraham Gonzalez, who's more in a producer role, but that in and of itself might be like a good connection to kind of renew. And then Braylon Washington, who I worked on things for all three of these people, and I believe at the end of the semester I actually stayed up for about 3 days to put like the final screws. Oh, and Carmen Velasquez as well is somebody who I've been meaning to follow up again with a minute for. But I'm not very good at staying in correspondence with people when like they are out of sight.
I feel that.
But yeah. So I definitely that's something where I would at least be interested in seeing how they're doing. It would be I would want to know more about people I worked with in lower division and elsewhere in elsewhere in the CSUMB sphere, I think, before like committing to stuff that I was doing with them. I would be interested in working with like Ryan Walters and Evan Gehring again at some point. I do really need to get my ducks in a row for some stuff that I was doing for Evan, as far as like maybe putting like a kind of a sweet like a condensed medley of like some of the themes for something I'd worked with him up on streaming. I haven't done like nearly as much with that as I've been meaning to, but as far as like famous folks, I couldn't really tell you about people I'd want to collaborate with. There's certainly people I would want to talk to. I think that like you have alluded to one of them who I put up an edit for a score of theirs on YouTube, which has accrued quite a number of views. But the kind of the like I will say that I've been more I've been interested in film scores for longer than I have been looking to pursue like audio and audio video interests.
Sure.
Because like I've never been I've taken guitar at a couple points throughout primary schooling, but I've never played in an instrument, and I don't know if it was like selling myself short or like kind of sloth when it came to dealing with it, but it was something that I felt like I couldn't really understand.
Okay.
Not that it wasn't like I didn't like love, like John Williams or Bernard Herrmann, Ennio Morricone are two like personal favorites of mine. Shirley Walker, if you know who that is. If you do, amazing. But uh, the one, I think Hans Zimmer is the one a lot of people will point to, but as like kind of a contemporary composer who's like almost a household name of sorts. But it's one of his collaborators slash subordinates at Remote Control Productions, Steve Jablonsky, who was actually kind of the flashpoint for really sitting up and taking notice of like film music again in the way that I have. But he, for those who don't know, is the composer probably most popularly associated with the Transformers films, which to this day I have something of a love-hate relationship with. I didn't grow up with like Beast Wars or the G1 cartoon airing and anything, so that was kind of like I watched those out of my own curiosity, but was like kind of watching the Michael Bay movies in tandem with them. And there were definitely points where I was kind of like, well, this is really a piece of shit. I kind of like what the score is doing here.
My eyes say no, but my ears say yes.
Yes. And it's like, you can definitely argue about like the merits of like originality, or even just with how the kind of the cue credit goes at Remote Control, like how much of that like is directly a result of like his thought process versus like people who he's working with or like are scoring certain scenes. But it was something where like just the timbres of the synths he was using and the way he like wrote the orchestra out, where if it wasn't like the most like original thing in the world necessarily, it was like just something about it really clicked for me. It was like, this is really enjoyable, and I like listening to this, and I like the amount of work that it is doing to like try and salvage this film. I think the kind of held, I think, is one of the worst of the films. Revenge of the Fallen is my my favorite of the scores, and there are points where it's really like just pulling out all the stops in terms of like modern like action suspense scoring to like kind of try like keep the film together like so much scotch tape.
Okay, well, as we're kind of hitting on this area, talking about Transformers, in movies and TV, they often showcase people's passions, whether they be occupational hobbies or, just even almost near or incidentally religious experiences. Sometimes they show them very correctly and they kind of nail it. They clearly had an inside man who gave them the skinny. And then sometimes they were like, oh, we got this, and we're just wildly off base. Are there any examples of, sound design, visual editing, or even, film scoring where they showcase that part in a movie, even though it's about movies, where they oddly got it wrong or they appreciatively got it right?
In the sense of like
accuracy,
just picking out like technical failures from,
not in the movie itself, but showing the representation. Like the movie like Blowout is about kind of audio design, and so it focuses a lot on equipment. And I don't know if I'm not an audio head, so I don't know if they got it right or wrong. But movies that focus on the activity that you are pursuing and how either right or wrong they got it.
I have always wondered what kind of black magic he was working with in Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, where he was able to EQ out the tape that drives the plot of that film. Because like that's kind of a thing that you would listen to as like particularly like a student who's kind of just trying to figure out stuff as they go along and be like, yeah, I wish I could like
Yeah.
pick this up that cleanly with a shotgun microphone from a roof across a busy courtyard in
Yeah.
the 1970s to boot.
I mean, isn't that's kind of like the joke in so many movies of like when somebody gets shown the film, they're like, enhance, and the quality is
Yes.
like pristine. It's kind of like the same thing you're talking about with audio, where they're like, oh yeah, just cut out this, that, and the other thing. It's like, there's not a button that says cut out car. Like that's
Yeah.
you don't get to just like isolate a sound of a vehicle and take all of it out as if it's just, you know, a layer to be lifted.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the like in film circles the one sentence horror story of we'll fix it in
We'll
post.
fix it in post. Yeah.
It I definitely got better at spotting ADR and sloppy ADR or like hot mics throughout doing this. I can't think of anything that like
Is there any movie that they showed the difficulty of doing post work, you think, kind of accurately? I know it's not generally focused on too much, which is funny because they like to focus on writing films indefinitely, but they don't focus on post work seeming like ever, or with any kind of, you know, it being of any value to the film. But in the times they do, either whether it's, you know, for film or just in general, whether, you know, some amount of editing, is there any movie where, even if it's kind of tangential, where they kind of get it more right? Like in Bohemian Rhapsody, they do a okay job. I look, not talking about the movie, just there's a scene where they do a lot of focus on editing and recording, and they show the amount of takes that may or may not have gone into the recording of like Bohemian Rhapsody, and like these angles and these, you know, we're trying this, we're burning like infinite, you know, recordings because we're just recording, trying to get it just right, just the way, you know, Freddie wanted it. Is there something like that when it comes to audio recording, or maybe even that one where it's like, yeah, actually this, or no, actually, yeah, they got it pretty close?
I am always surprised by like exact attention to detail when I see it in movies. Like I have not seen all of his discography, but like Michael Mann's like 90s output's kind of fun for that, in the sense of like, oh, those actors clearly had firearm training, or
Sure.
like kind of like they are going the extra mile and like trying to emulate like period dress, or like having like a tense scene where there are like two interpreters trying to get like 3 or 4 different factions all on the same page, and it's like a really like tense situation and whatnot. But I think that like the kind of the workmanship of stuff is hard to translate effectively into dramatics a lot of the time. And I will say too that I for my chosen measure, like watch entirely too few things and like listen to entirely too few things, it feels like. And almost kind of in the mindset of like, I can't watch that right now, I've got to be a film student or what have you.
Yeah.
But I think that I think I will give it some grace in the sense of like, it's hard to show something audiences are gonna understand or intuit with minimal explanation without some kind of distortion. So there's a little bit of like creative license to reality that I kind of I've eased up a little bit on like being so super perfectionistic. If you're just like flat out lazy, like certain of the movies which I've talked about like previously are, then that's kind of
sure.
I'm not a huge fan of that.
So when talking to people, whether it be family, friends, or just, you know, strangers at a bus stop, about this love you have for sound design, visual editing, and, you know, kind of scoring, what big misconceptions do you notice people have about that when you're talking to them? Are they just like, what are they like, oh, so it's like this, and you're just like, No, like not even a little bit.
I think that the one that is kind of like I have a hard time getting over is that people seem to think that I'm more intelligent or adept at it than I am. um like it's um and in the sense of like being like kind of obsessive about what I work on, and like I'll worry at something, not in the sense of like stressing out about it, although I'll do that too, but like I will kind of like micro examine like, okay, these frames are just a little bit off, or like the level is like kind of just not sitting right here.
Mhm.
um like I would be terrible about going, like if I were to get offered a job right now with like doing sound work for a show, it would be like irreconcilable with like kind of the feeling that I've sussed out in like Final Cut Pro or something, with like leveling audio, because I just go like with what sounds good to me,
Mm,
with the limitations of like the program that I'm using at that point, rather than like the held industry standard.
sure.
Um, and like I haven't even really like done all that much work in terms of like EQing, as much as I just have like written like
All right.
the
Well, so
volume
for those
control and
that
automation.
don't know what that means, would you kindly describe what EQ means?
EQ stands for equalization, but it's the like more broadly, it's kind of referring to filters and boosting or minimizing frequencies depending on whether or not you want them in your mix, and also compensating for like interference and muddiness where they start to step on each other's toes. And it's actually something that I've been working a lot more with uh, post pandemic and postgraduate, rather than before it. And I think working on like scores and even just kind of doing like loops and really getting into hip hop music as well, where so much of that is dependent on their ability to like filter and kind of streamline a chosen sample to get the desired effect of what they want. Uh, and all of that has kind of made me more cognizant of that aspect. I'm sorry if we are getting out a little bit on an island as far as like how are we going to tie this back together with the other with the peeve that you asked me.
No, we're good. What before
Okay.
we move on to such segment though, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect that people don't realize you love about doing this, doing the visual editing, doing sound design, doing the scoring? What is it that you wish people knew so they could understand, your kind of love, your almost, fan like kind of appreciative obsession with this art form?
Um, it's hard to parse. I mean, we've talked a little bit about mental health. While I was at CSUMB, actually got for the first time an autism spectrum diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
through the last year. So, kind of looking at it from that point of view, I would say that there's almost a sense of chasing fluidity. Like you want something to work and work well, but the seams don't really draw attention to themselves.
Hmm.
Like you want to be able to kind of capture stuff that's fluid and like uses all the parameters of stuff you're hearing, like sound wise or music, and what you're seeing,
Okay.
and how just the beats between those three all kind of fall
Oh, so it's
uh,
like the coalescence of
against each
like
other.
these complementary art forms.
Yes, like it's really
It's the Sunday of post work. Sunday being like the sweet snack of that, without the
yes,
ice cream and the banana and the cherry and the whipped cream, it doesn't.
yes.
These are all individually good, but together the symphony. They speak to me.
Yeah, they're greater than the sum of its parts, and like I paint myself to a corner maybe a bit in the sense that all three of them are like stuff that you could, and people do, like spend their entire careers refining and getting better at, but just one like aspect of rather than like trying to become multidisciplinarian.
Sure.
Which when you're like ADHD autistic is really like has benefits and drawbacks to kind of being able to like work well in like a school setting, as well as like just being able to read or like hold your attention span, or yeah, I mean, like I've gotten into like disagreements with like instructors before, in the sense of like I don't think they edited that right, and like having a difference of opinion of like I get what you're talking about, but I think that like if you change this parameter instead of that, then that'll be to more to satisfaction. And I think I've actually made mixes for sure that I'm less happy with, and I think like don't work as well to satiate other people, which like is an important part of the creative process, and like respecting the like the like who has the final say and whatnot, because it's not your project, you are just kind of like working on it and contributing to it. But like yeah, it's hard to define in some ways what is so seductive about like audiovisual and musical, but like the way in which they all kind of the rhythm or the feel of all of them working off each other, when you're able to like get it tapped out to the best of your ability, is very, very satisfying, even if it's not like hugely ostentatious or impressive and drawing attention to itself.
It's awesome.
I hope that is not too
that was
wildly esoteric.
No, that was great. Well, to go on from something so beautiful to something perhaps that is quite bothersome, Rory, my friend,
reptilian even.
What is your most preposterous peeve?
So this was kind of a challenge, because there's I'm rather neurotic, and there's quite a lot that I take exception to.
Sure.
But I feel in a lot of cases it's kind of metastasized from like stuff that's reasonable, just like taken to an unreasonable degree.
Sure.
Like for some of my favorite like CDs and whatnot, which I've gone through the effort of burning, occasionally where you have like a gapless playback between two tracks that they're supposed to flow in the other, when you burn that waveform, it'll divide it up to the point where it's not falling on a zero crossing, and you'll hear like a click when you go from one track to the next. So like I have taken it upon myself to essentially like stitch together like 36 chambers or the infamous or what have you, a few different scores. Like I think Transformers score has like its final 4 pieces just as one suite that's been cut up into 4, and like put those back together. But that's not unreasonable, I don't think, to like be annoyed by like, oh, there's like a clear pop and gap there.
Mm-hmm.
My preposterous peeve has a little bit more to do just with body image. I really do not care to show my feet to people, my bare feet to people.
Does this have to do with like people asking to see your feet, or do you mean that like when you go to the beach, you're just like wearing shoes while in the ocean?
Well, when I go to the beach, like there's a little bit of give and take. It's not a phobia to the point of like I'm covering my ankles or anything. I actually have an extra toenail, I believe, on my pinky toe.
Oh,
it's called an accessory nail.
So when people ask if you like to accessorize,
yeah, yes,
baby, I was born to accessorize.
Well, see, I for years thought that it was an indicator of me doing something wrong with regards to shoes or foot care.
Totally,
because I thought it was like a corn, or I'd split my nails, just like being incautious or whatnot, and it was something that like reflected poorly on like foot health. I'm certain like working 6 days a week at like the farm and like sturdy boots doesn't do them any favors, but like that's stuff that I can kind of like correct a little bit.
Mhm.
I just really don't particularly care to show my pinky toes off to people.
Understandable.
So like if I am like if I were at the beach and I were like hanging out with multiple people who like weren't members of my family, I would probably be like self-conscious anyway, like showing off that much of my body in a swimsuit and whatnot. But I would probably just be like tacitly burrowing my toes into the sand. I like
Rory, are you building a sandcastle with your feet? Sure.
more or less sand trench. I'll put in a good word as long as you're safe about it for being buried at the beach. Pebblier is better. Start off with rocks. Sand is potentially dangerous.
So, do you have any stories or moments that have been like, kind of, I don't want to say outliers, but they brought out your preposterous peeve a little bit more than other moments? Maybe somebody like, oh, come on, like, why are you not coming playing with the water? Why are you wearing shoes? Why are you doing this or that? Where you're like, look, I don't want to talk about it.
I think you're probably the first person I've like truly espoused this to.
Thank you very much. We feel honored.
It's an honor. It's an honor to divulge.
Hell yeah!
How much I don't like showcasing my Velociraptor claws. But
all right, now if you call them that and you don't show them off, I feel like you can't call them that anymore. I feel like if you call them Velociraptor talons,
they're not that bad. They really
no, I know,
bad.
But like if you give them such a awesome honorific and then don't show them off, I feel like you can't call them that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought it was like I thought it was something that reflected poorly.
No,
I thought they were Lister's corns
or
whatnot, and that it was just me being negligent and like people being to spot that a mile off.
Yeah,
like they're still not like pleasant to look at. They're not pleasant to cut. They I need to be like careful, or I can really like inflame the toe. But it's just like it almost is. I'm sorry. Can you restate the question, please, Isaac?
No, you're good. I was just wondering if there was ever a circumstance in which case this predilection of yours was more of a problem than other instances. Were you at a party? Were you at a family gathering? Everybody's swimming and you're just kind of like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, come on. You're just like, I'm good. And like had to deal with either fallout or, the tension got higher. You kind of went for a long walk away from said water source.
Well, it's a it's more a recent thing. I think that having roommates and like people that I'm not related to like
yeah
brings it out more, because like I mean, if you're around people who have like seen you naked since you were a kid, then it's not gonna like they're not
it's not gonna like it's not a problem. It's it's a known quantity.
Yeah, to the point that I'm like, I kind of wonder if like my family were to listen to this, if they would be like, "But he's been worried about showing us his toes this entire time. That's weird." But it's something that's only more recently like come along, and I just it hasn't really been, I think, evident to other people. But like when I moved into my new place here, in San Luis, like I don't think my roommate saw my bare feet for probably 8 months. I always made sure that I had like socks on, regardless of whether or not I was comfortable. I would occasionally like walk outside with socks if I had to like step out in a hurry. Usually I would just put shoes on, which does not necessarily like improve your foot health or whatnot, but it was just something I didn't like to show off.
No, I get that. All right. So before we head to our ad break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song you're choosing, which would it be?
It's not necessarily my favorite song of all time, but if I had to pick one to point you at and say like, go listen to this, it would probably be "Walk On By" Isaac Hayes. The full 12-minute version that's on the LP, not the radio edit.
Not this nimby-pimby 3-minute shit. Sit in,
No, I think it's
strap down. Listen to
I think
12
it's I think it's 6 minutes. They cut out the heart of the track.
Oh no.
But yeah, and that's one I've probably been listening to for about like 4 years now.
Nice.
I have a really I've always liked like 70s, 60s, 70s soul. I wouldn't say that I'm really conversant in it, but it's something that I've had to sit up and take notice of more, really kind of falling head over heels with 90s hip hop, because they pull so much from it.
Yeah.
In terms of like direct sampling or like melodic in jokes and references in the lyrics and whatnot. But yeah, it's this 12-minute like vamp. It's actually a cover of Dionne Warwick's "Walk On By." I think that it was originally written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. He's actually the man who wrote the theme song for Blazing Saddles, believe it or not. But it is like, it's just gorgeous. It's slow. It takes its time. But I think that I almost feel like it goes on for just a little bit too long.
At 12 minutes? No.
But I kind of like that, because it makes me think, it really makes me think critically about the structure of the song and what does versus doesn't work for me. Because like I like when something like kind of takes its time. I like longer movies. A lot of the time I like stuff that kind of tries to build an atmosphere. The way that this song builds an atmosphere is phenomenal. It's got this gorgeous intro with strings and just this guitar that's kind of building the back, and then that itself has this solo passage, and it's got this like because it's like the original Dionne version is this kind of like cutesy like kind of walk sorry. The original version that Dionne Warwick did is this kind of like cutesy, like walk on by, lover, don't look me in the eye, what you've done to me thing. And Hayes just turns it into this like epic track where he's really trying to like get you to feel the emotion of this. And so it's like, it's all sad, but then this guitar comes in and it almost sounds like angry in the way that it's being played.
Yeah.
But like that actually, like it makes sense in terms of like capturing heartbreak, and like there's bitterness to it, and like it doesn't rest comfortably, and like it lingers for a while.
Totally.
And the way he sings it is great. I think that where I get I think that where I start to like kind of feel like it loses focus a little bit is the back half, where this extended kind of breakdown. I will ask, I know we're going to ad break. Do you need me to wrap it up concisely or not?
No. But with that, we're going to throw it to our sponsors, so Rory here can have a minute to put on this rubber suit before we get all up in the lightning round. But if advertisements aren't your thing, why not have a listen to Walk On By Isaac Hayes? Or if you really want to hear a song from a previous episode, please check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a bit.
Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction.
And we're back. Rory, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round?
I think so. We shall see shortly.
All right, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Are hot dogs tacos.
No.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Tentacle arms.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
I have done both and gotten high off the indecision between creating my own reality or just listening to them.
Would you rather read one good novel or take on a 12-book series?
I would rather read one good novel and then spend my evening going down a rabbit hole about the author.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
Both are true.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
It's got to be playlist.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Is Vince Vaughn still in charge? Because that will inform my answer.
He is not.
Okay. It's slightly cooler now.
Would you rather have a teleporter or a time machine?
I would categorically rather have a teleporter.
Are you being the person Mr. Rogers knew you could be?
Doubtful.
Which is realer, mermaids or Bigfoot?
Bigfoot's definitely realer.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something terrible has to happen. Law of averages.
Do people who prefer Pepsi to Coke deserve human rights?
Both are subhuman compared to Dr. Pepper drinkers.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Thankfully, I don't think so.
All right, and to close it out, could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Ooh, sure.
Well, congratulations, you've survived the lightning round! Woo!
I will amend my last one and then an ambulance should be standing by.
Well, before we move on, I, like many listeners, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of in a 1-hour time limit for $5,000 with an ambulance standing by?
Probably some form of sushi.
All right.
That's the safe answer.
All right.
I do love street tacos too.
37 street tacos is a lot of taco.
Yeah, it depends on the meat you get too.
True.
37 37 beef tongues is a hard order, but
Yes.
I could probably do chori.
Well, my friend, now as a reward, I grant thee a lightning round question of your own to be echoed till the ends of time. What you got?
Do you think that society as we know it will crumble within the next century and a half?
I would say no, but there's a lot of follow-up questions here, right? Like when you say as we know it, does that mean that the society we live in now came from the ashes of the society that was like the 1700s? Because if so, yeah, I think that's just evolution. So I would say yes to that. But if we mean in that we would like devolve backwards and, become subhuman, treat each other like we depict barbarians did in the past of just, killing and eating each other and, basically not even having conversation or logic, then I would say no.
That's not a bad thought. I think that we are probably, I feel like the United States as we know it, I don't know is going to survive another century and a half.
Well, on the plus side, if it gets the whole century and a half, I'll be dead. So no worries.
I know
there.
That's the thing is like, we'll be dead. We won't know. But
exactly.
Like,
burn it down and party, folks. All right, as we come,
it's burning down. It is definitely burning down.
As we come to a close here, my friend, anything you want to plug, shouts you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
I would say that you can follow me on YouTube. I have a Facebook. I do have a SoundCloud, which I did not give you a link for, but I have not put a ton out on. Yeah, I have not put a ton out in recent years. I'm working on getting back on my feet for that.
Hell yeah.
But if you want to check those out, be that stuff that I have edited or remixed or contributed to, that would be really awesome. You can find me at YouTube under the username PsychoKitty444. You can find me under my government name on the old FB. Not in the metaverse yet, and SoundCloud under PsychoKitty as well. Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on here. I hope that I have not given Richard too much of a migraine.
Only time will tell.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Rory, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, you, listening at home or wherever you find time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.